What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Stoppage Time Stooges. I'm your host, Christian, joined by Ricardo and Jacob. If you're watching on YouTube, you can clearly tell that Andrew is not here today. He has given us a bet, which you'll see later, but he's unavailable today. So that is why he is not here. But before we get into all the different topics, guys, how are we doing?
Good. I'd say. Jacob.
Trying to think of a different word.
Not fine.
All right.
There we go. Something different.
Very
That's the biggest topic of the day. What's Jacob's word going to be at the beginning of the show?
Yeah, maybe I'll try and get different words for every show. I don't know. We'll see.
Great.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. The biggest news before we get into the return of club football is Mauricio Pochettino to the U.S. men's national team. News that we knew about for a while, was flirted with in terms of actually getting done for probably like a month or so. But the U.S. got it done this week, thank goodness, because if you watched us play this week, I don't know why any manager would want to deal with that. But we got the manager. The money's right. That's a good point, Jacob. What do we think of this hire? Jacob, I'll start with you.
I got one word to describe this whole thing. Finally. Just finally, it's done. Finally, we don't have to worry about it anymore. It's real. It's spectacular. It's happening. That's the biggest takeaway that I have, because we heard about this a while ago. And then we didn't hear anything. And then we were wondering what was going to happen. When was it going to happen? If it was still going to happen. And then finally it happened, and which is a good sign. And that's a good sign. Listen, Mauricio Pochettino is certainly an upgrade over Greg Berhalter. The biggest thing that we all want to see is what kind of players, which players is he going to use? Is he going to use different players? Is he going to make any big changes to the 11, to the team? That's all going to be what we care about, up until the World Cup, which is going to be mostly on our soil, our home turf in this country, in America. So he's got a big job ahead of him. I think he's up for the challenge. I just hope that we don't get crazy with our expectations, because if we do, then we're just going to, be out of touch with reality once again. I don't expect to win the World Cup because we have a new manager who's a lot better. Don't get stupid, people. Okay, no semifinal. No. If they make it to like this, the last of the 16 or whatever it is, that is an achievement. If they're one of the last 8 teams remaining, then by God, that's crazy. So the point I'm trying to make is that we should all be very excited about this, but we shouldn't lose our minds in regards to how much better this will make the team, because the players are the ones that really decide the games. They're the ones that score the goals, that make the saves, that get the assists, not the manager. So it's really still going to fall on the players.
Trying to figure out which direction to take this, but obviously it is a massive upgrade over Berhalter. Hopefully, someone of Pochettino's caliber, players will look up to him and sort of give him the respect that he deserves, because he has been one of the most, respected managers in club football. And as opposed to Greg, who his background's, not quite as good. His resume is not as good as Poch's. So hopefully, they can mature, grow, respect him, listen to him, and not do some of the dumb things that they've done over the years, red cards and disciplinary stuff, all that. So at least that's one thing that Poch kind of has to get from the jump, figure that out, and make sure everyone gets the message he's in charge. But overall, yeah, like Jacob said, finally, it took forever. I mean, we talked about it kind of briefly last week that they were going to meet in Barcelona and that they were going to like sign it there or whatever, and didn't happen, so we had to wait another week. But the fact that it's finally done, it's definitely a huge sigh of relief for U.S. fans and federation as well. So, yeah, expectations definitely should be. You could be optimistic, but don't go crazy with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing when I look at this hire is the maturity and the leadership this group needs to rediscover or discover to begin with. Um, I mean, there's been so many moments in the last, well, I guess a year and a half since the World Cup that have been underwhelming. I mean, Serginho Dest's red card in Trinidad, Tim Weah losing his mind against Panama in in Copa America, Greg Berhalter deciding to tell his team on the field that Uruguay had, or I think it was that Panama had, been level, and at that moment in the game they were going to go through. I mean, that's not necessarily on the team, but just a lot of messy moments since the World Cup, and I thought the World Cup was a good stepping stone for our group. Young team, basically nobody in that squad had World Cup experience, and has had a chance to potentially go to the quarterfinals. I mean, if Pulisic scores early in that game against the Netherlands, it would have been a different game. And again, the goals they gave up in that game were not, of huge, great caliber. I mean, they made some bad decisions in possession, out of possession, but regardless, Poch is an elite manager. He's done great in Europe. The question is, how will he fare in the national team setup? Because he's never done it before. So that also, I think, goes hand in hand with what Jacob's mentioning, that, it's not a guarantee that Poch is going to light the world on fire in a new environment for him. He's never had to coach a national team before. So I'm optimistic, but I think this group needs to take like 4 or 5 good steps in the next couple of years to, I mean, you can't say get to a World Cup final, or you really can't even get to a semifinal. That can't be the, expectation right now. I think they do need to go a step forward. At least they need to be getting into a World Cup quarterfinals on home soil, in my opinion. But that's way, way down the line. I'm more focused on the now, and the now is trying to figure out who's the leaders, who's available. Because again, I mean, we would love to have Tyler Adams on the field every single game in every single window, but the reality is he's just not available. Can Johnny Cardoso step up into that role? Tanner Tessman, who's now at Lyon. So there's a lot of positions in the team that need to be settled. I mean, we can go through the starting lineups from big games in recent memory. I mean, Pulisic's on the team sheet. The striker position's a question mark. The goalkeeper position's a question mark. You know that Anthony Robinson's in the team.
Yeah.
Chris Richards at this point is a lock to be in the team. But yeah, I mean, I think that's why you have to temper your expectations, because the team does not have a clear best 11, or even like a best 18. Who knows? I just think there's a lot of issues that need to be sorted well beyond what Poch is going to provide. I think he'll be great. He needs to set the tone right out of the gate in October's window. But yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle between you guys in terms of optimism and expectations. I mean, if we're going to do anything in a World Cup with this generation, it has to be in 26. You have the home the home factor is a big deal, or it should be, at least, hopefully.
It should be, but then again, it should have been in the Copa America.
Right. And
when they played Panama and these other teams, that should have been enough to be a home field advantage.
So,
when you're, so I get what you're saying. My thing is this: if they really want to achieve something, one of these players has to become a superstar. Whether it's Pulisic or, I don't know, Ricardo Pepi or Balogun or McKinney, they have to become a truly superstar-like player. Because to me, they can win off of a collection of individuals. They can probably win more games than they have before against certain teams like Panama. But if you want them to beat like an elite team, like a Netherlands or an Argentina or a Portugal, that's only going to happen if these guys considerably raise their game. It's not going to work if they're just what they are now, which is fine, but it's not elite. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's fair. It's a fair point. And again, our best player right at the moment is Christian Pulisic, and he's a very important player for Milan. But I mean, you're right. I mean, he's not a player that's going to get into every team in the world. He's a very good player, but at this moment in time, he's not.
Think of it like this: if you were drafting players from his position, how many would it have to take for his number to be called?
I guess it depends if you're.
And I get it. He plays an attacking role. It's a very position full of amazing players. But think of it like that.
Off the top of my head, if I had to guess, I mean, you're probably talking between 25 and 30 players before him in Europe, in particular.
He's got to get to the 20 part.
Yeah, he's got
to be in that 15 to 20 range.
Yeah, and he's gotten better. He had a great year at Milan, but the problem is a lot of these guys in the current setup are not playing a lot in Europe, which I think is hurting people like Matt Turner and Weston McKennie. Kind of looked out of shape at the Copa America, looked a little step slow. His club situation is not necessarily his fault.
Yeah.
Because Juve's kind of mistreated him in my eyes, but regardless, you got to figure your way out of it. No matter who's at fault in that situation. But yeah, it's a good step. Pochettino's a great hire. But there also is a lot of questions around it because of the current situation with the squad. So, we'll see. They got a match at Mexico in October. So if you want a good test in CONCACAF and you can't get one from Europe or South America, I mean, that's as good as it gets. Going to the Azteca is a difficult environment, but it's also a
go win. Like no more excuses. No more, it's difficult environment.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We've made so many excuses for this
group.
Team. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
They got Way got sent off. They played Uruguay.
Yeah.
Enough. No. This is the thing. No more babying the players. That's the thing that Poch needs to do. No more babying them. No more. We're friends. No. Yeah. I'm your boss. That's how it needs to be.
Yeah, everybody wanted Greg Berhalter out. Now we see what this group's really made of because they're playing under, again, a top-level coach who has done a lot of good things in Europe. So, yeah, I'm very fascinated to see, one, what kind of squad he picks, and two, the mentality of this group as the months and years go by in the build up to 2026. But all right, that's enough on Poch. We've kind of talked about him for months, or at least a month now. But let's go to the Premier League. A team has been hampered by injuries. It got worse this week, and that's Arsenal. Martin Odegaard is going to be out for at least a couple weeks. I don't know. It could be longer. We haven't really got a full idea of how long his absence will be. Mikel Merino is also injured. And also, by the way, Declan Rice is suspended for the weekend's match against Tottenham. So, not great. Jacob, what do you think of Arsenal at the moment? Obviously, they didn't get the result they wanted pre-international window against Brighton, and they got two big matches coming up.
What's the one after they play
Manchester City away?
City away.
Yep.
I think that they'll be fine. They may not be as good. They may lose a game, probably to City, but I don't look. The guys that aren't available right now are very important players, especially because most of them are in the same position. I understand that, but Arsenal have a bench. They have depth. They have a lot of depth. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people think that they're good enough to win the league and take the crown away from Manchester City. I understand how great Declan Rice is and Martin Odegaard is and Mikel Merino is. But their midfield probably is still going to be Thomas Partey, who's pretty good. He was at Atletico Madrid. Jorginho, who's won a lot, has done a lot of good. And they could put Kai Havertz at his, I guess, more natural position as 10. I think they're going to be fine. They're good enough. They can beat Tottenham. I'm not afraid of Tottenham, and I don't think Arsenal are afraid of Tottenham. I mean, you tell me who's the better manager? I'm taking Arteta. Who's the better goalkeeper? I'm taking Raya. Who has the better back line? I'm taking Arsenal. I mean, who's got the better right wing? I'm taking Arsenal. I mean, they're still better in a lot of areas than Tottenham. So I still think it's a very winnable game for them. City is a different story. I don't know if they can beat City with those injuries and those guys missing. It's not impossible, but it's a lot less likely. So that will be a challenge, but I think that they're good enough to weather a storm. You know, if you told me that any of these guys were out for a month plus, maybe Odegaard will be, we'll see, but like a month or more, then I'd be a bit more concerned. But considering that these injuries are probably going to be these absent guys are going to be out for less than a month, makes me feel a lot less stressed about Arsenal and a lot less stressed about the team if I were a fan of this team. But I think they're going to be fine. I really do. The players that they got are experienced, they're proven, they're really good. I understand that they're not what the other guys are, but it could be a lot worse.
I'm so torn about them now because Spurs are also dealing with injuries. Van de Ven with the Netherlands suffered a knock. Who knows if he's going to be out or if he'll be available. I don't know if there's any update on that, but Solanke could be available off the bench. Richarlison also, I believe, is injured. He's injured, I believe. But
yep.
Going into this, I was saying Spurs could actually win. Just looking at those three injuries, I'm not so sure anymore. But they are, like you said, Jacob, the deeper team. Geez, I don't know. I'm more I could see this playing out as a draw.
That's a very possible result.
But if we look at it long term, I guess it's definitely worth monitoring because Christian, you and I were saying this before. This could be a make or break. This early in the season is kind of crazy to say that, but you think about you're playing
same
Spurs,
story every year,
and you're playing City. Like you can't afford to be dropping points like at any point of the season. So, it's Arsenal. They have to win. Regardless of injuries, they just have to keep winning if they want to keep up with City. That's just how it goes every single season. It never changes. So, yeah.
And remember last year, wasn't it against City where they literally were game planning to get a draw and they got a draw and they took it as
which
a
at
win.
the time felt like a good result.
Yeah,
but then
they were way too
points to Aston Villa. I think it was. I think they lost to Aston Villa at home.
Right.
And they won this time there at least. Change of fortune, maybe. I don't know, but probably not.
Yeah, I didn't have Arsenal finishing second to begin the season. I still think that's the case. Again, it's early. We're only 3 games into the season, but I think we need to really again, it's going to be all down to Martin Odegaard's injury. If this thing lingers into 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I don't think they're going to win the league. I just don't. And in hindsight, you could say this. Maybe it's a little harsh because now who knows where this injury would have been. But selling Emile Smith-Rowe and loaning Fabio Vieira out, kind of coming back to bite them. Again, Smith-Rowe at this stage of his career needs to be playing every week, so I understand it from his perspective. But I don't know, letting 2 natural midfielders leave, kind of a risk. Again, they will get Declan Rice back for the City match, so that is a positive. But I from the get-go, I wasn't too impressed by the squad to run it back and be as close to perfect as they were last season. I just don't see it. In terms of winning the league, I think they're going to be right up there again. But I just don't see it personally. Again, if Martin Odegaard can recover and be back by the end of the month or maybe midway through October, it probably changes things slightly. But Manchester City is going to, they've already started well. Usually they don't. So I feel like you're 2 or 3 slips away from taking yourself out of it. And again, this is an injury-riddled team. shorthanded, going to City. It's not like they're going to have 2 matches later in the year when they're fully fit to potentially take 6 points off City. They're probably going to lose that match and drop another 3 points behind them. So, I mean, all of us picked Manchester City to win the league. All of us will continue to pick them to win the league until someone takes them off of that stepping stool. I just don't see Arsenal doing it this year. And I think Martin Odegaard's loss is a huge one. It's one of the most important players to any team in Europe.
I would agree.
18 goal involvements last year in the league. Captain, leader. I think everything he brings to Arsenal is going to be lost in more ways than one.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's continue the conversation on the English teams, but more from a UCL, Europa League, and Conference League perspective. I think it's 7 teams in Europe this year when you put them all together. Let's start with City. I would say, for me right now, I think they're still the favorite to win the Champions League. Just because of Real Madrid not having a squad that's fully comfortable in rhythm, kind of figuring everything out with the midfield and the balance of the squad. So, Ricardo, as a Real Madrid fan, who is your favorite at the moment?
I'd also say City. Only just. I feel like even going into this season, I would have said them too, just because I did feel a little skeptical about how Mbappe would kind of gel with the front three, and I guess the rest of the players. It's a lot of big names in the side, which is great and all. It's just it takes time to eventually find the chemistry with each other. But I think City, I mean, they're just so good regardless. I mean, they won the treble 2 seasons ago. We're not far removed from that. So I again wouldn't be shocked if they went and won again, even though I'd love Real to win it again, but it's just City are that good. So it's them too as the favorites for sure.
I would agree. I don't really know who I would pick as the third team, to be honest with you. I don't feel as good about Inter as I did last year. I think they're a little bit worse. I think that I don't know. I'm just not. I think that last year really was their year to win the Champions League, and I think that they blew it. I really do.
They definitely blew it.
Okay.
They should have gotten past Atleti.
Yes,
wish they did.
Because if they got past Atleti, we talked about how weak that side of the bracket was, and maybe they would have lost to Real in the final, but they would have been a much worthier opponent than Dortmund was. So that I think we can all agree on. But I mean, Haaland's already in this form. I guess the big critique about him has always been if he scores in the really, really important matches. A lot of people think that he feasts on the weak.
Yeah.
Because again, they don't really have much of a backup for him because Alvarez isn't there anymore. So
that's a good point. Yeah,
that's one thing I'm worried about.
They are one injury away from having it be a little tricky.
Because last year they didn't play him every game. There were a lot of times where they would have him off the bench or whatever just to keep him fresh.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do with that this year. Savinho, I don't think is a striker. I don't know who you
would vote as a false 9.
You could, but I think I think City will maybe try and add someone on the cheaper side in January. If I were them, I would think about maybe Jesus back on a loan from Arsenal. He's got familiarity. Maybe Pep would take him back on a loan in January. Real, it's all about the chemistry and how fast they can get healthy. Now, even with all those injuries, they still have a loaded team. So I think they'll be okay. I think the thing that I'm more interested in is the teams like Liverpool, United, Tottenham, teams like United. If I were United, I would put a lot into the Europa League. A lot, because you're not going to win the Premier League.
No.
You probably could win the two that you could win the 2 domestic cups. Ten Hag has seemingly gotten a lot of his teams in both of those cups. He's won both of them. But if I were him, I'd try and win the Europa League because it may be also your best chance of getting into the Champions League next year is winning the Europa League. I've talked about how I think Chelsea, there is no excuse for them not to win the Conference League. I'm sorry, there isn't. When you have spent that much money and you have that many players and you have to load manage the best ones, which is stupid and ridiculous because they're kids. They're not 35 years old. But that's neither here nor there. They should win it. Tottenham, I'm curious about. They didn't have European football last year. They have it this year. I'm very interested to see how they do in the Europa League. And Villa, we saw last year with Newcastle that they had a hard time in the Champions League. And a lot of that was because they were in the group of death that we thought was the group of death. Villa, I'm really interested to see how much they try in the UCL because it's very new to them. It's not something that they're used to. They might prioritize winning the FA Cup more and the Carabao Cup more because they have a better shot at winning them. But that's where I'm at. And Liverpool, I'm interested to see because they have the new manager. They've gotten off to a good start. They've sort of feasted on some bad English teams. I kind of want to see how they look up against a team in Europe that is, better than the bottom 5 in England.
Sure. Yeah, I know Liverpool's run in this league phase is not easy. So if you want tests, they're there. I mean, they're getting Milan away to start. They have Bologna at home, RB Leipzig on the road. They have to play Leverkusen, which is going to be a match everybody's going to want to watch because of Xabi Alonso's return. Real Madrid, Girona, Lille, PSV. I mean, there's a lot of difficult matches in there. So will Liverpool be into the final 16? They're probably going to be playing in that playoff 9 through 24, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to get a top 8. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but being one of those top 8 teams is going to be tricky for a lot of these teams. I actually, in my opinion, I think only one English team gets in that top 8 where they get the bye. I think it's Manchester City.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go through the list of teams. I don't know if you guys have any of those other teams getting into the top 8. And
I need to watch a video on how this whole new thing works because I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Arsenal, I'm surprised you leave out, but
so
again,
do you remember how they played last year? I forgot to mention Arsenal. They just slipped my mind. But I remember they were pretty shaky last year when the games mattered, and they had some very winnable games.
It's not like they're getting Arsenal last year had Lens, PSV, and blanking on the other team. But again, point is that their group was quite favorable. They weren't in a group of depth.
Who'd they lose to?
In the group stage?
No. When they
Porto, right?
They lost to they got past Porto on penalties and they lost to Bayern.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And it was a pretty flat 2 legs. They made a lot of errors at home, and then I think they lost 1-0 on the road. But we can go through the teams. Manchester City going to finish ahead of them. I think Bayern's going to finish ahead of them. That's 2. Real Madrid, that's 3.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Atletico Madrid?
Not great.
So we'll go.
Not great.
It's not conclusive. Okay, so that's still 3. I personally think Leverkusen's healthier and better than Arsenal right now.
Yeah.
So 4. I mean, you're talking about Inter. That's 5, right?
Yeah.
PSG. That's 6. I mean, the thing is, we're already getting closer and closer to them not finishing in the top 8.
Yeah.
And a lot of it depends on matchups, which again, I think why Jacob's not the only one. It's very tricky and very confusing. Kind of difficult and impossible to do a preview like normal years. But I personally think City's the only one, in my opinion.
Fair.
Some of those other teams, it's going to be. I think Arsenal's going to be teetering in that 8 to 12 range. I think Liverpool is probably right there as well. I think if Aston Villa can get into a I guess it's a playoff to get into the round of 16. That's a success for them. I think they're better suited than Newcastle was. One, because I think their squad's a little deeper, and they have a manager who's experienced in Europe, which doesn't. I don't think you can like overlook, because Unai Emery, while a lot of that success has been in Europa League, it's European experience. So I feel pretty confident in Aston Villa, all things considered. But let's I guess let's do a little more talk on the Europa League teams, because again, I mean, Jacob's right. Manchester United should heavily pursue a deep run in the Europa League, in my opinion, because I don't think any of us are 100% confident in them finishing in the top 4.
No,
They won't.
I don't know if I feel confident in them finishing in the top 6.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and again, we should take a look at the teams that are in the Europa League, because there's not a crazy amount of elite teams. You have some teams like Lazio and Ajax who, big giants in Europe who are not at their peak. Nice, Olympiacos. Obviously, Olympiacos went on that crazy run in Conference League. But, I mean, big teams in Europe, you really have Manchester United, Roma. I mean, Galatasaray and Fenerbahce is going to be interesting to see how these Turkish teams do.
Yeah.
Porto. I don't see a lot of teams in this format that are better than United squad-wise. It's going to come down to Ten Hag, though. I mean, that's the big thing here. So
there's no reason why they can't beat all of those teams you just listed.
Yeah. Except Gala, because they were in the same group last year, weren't they?
Yep.
Yeah, they were.
And didn't they blow one of their leads in one of those games?
They definitely blew one on the road.
Yeah.
I think they drew twice. Or Gala won it. No, I think
they won at home. Didn't Onana save a penalty?
That might be right.
They won like one.
It might have been.
That was a mess.
Remember. Yeah.
That feels like that also feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah.
And then I mean Tottenham. Ricardo, what do you think of them? Because again, this is a team that's looking for a trophy. Do you think they are primed for a deep run, or you think one of these European teams is going to knock them out early in the, let's say, round of 16 or a quarterfinal?
Oh man, were we talking about Spurs here, or were we talking about United? Okay.
Spurs.
I mean, they should also be in that top 8. Again, they're at least starting at 11 wise. They should be up there with talent. Maybe not so much as with depth. As for a run, I mean, that's one of those things where I feel like Spurs would prioritize. Well, actually, they're not even in the Carabao Cup anymore, right? They got knocked out, right?
Let's see.
I don't remember if they got knocked out, but maybe they're still in it. I feel like if they really want a trophy,
they're still in the Carabao Cup.
Okay, they are. Then I'm thinking of Brighton. That's what I was thinking of. So the thing is, like we kind of said, the depth is going to get tested. I think, a couple injuries to any of the starters, I think that could really hamper them, and especially in Europe. So, I mean, they could get to a quarterfinal. They probably should, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Any deeper than that, I think, is a success. Same, I guess, with United. I mean, I'm not sure that Spurs are going to prioritize, Europa League as much as United should, because I think there are other winnable trophies in FA Cup and Carabao Cup. So, but again, it seems like every year with them, they just can't. Even if they do, go on these runs in and the, domestic cups, they can't win it for some reason. They're just cursed. I don't know. Regardless, I guess my point is they're not going to win anything this season again. That's what I'm saying.
I hope you're right.
I want them to win something, but I don't know. It just seems like they're destined to never win anything.
I echo a lot of what Ricardo said in regard to Tottenham, and I've talked about this. My biggest concern is the depth. I am if I'm really worried about the fact that I don't think they have enough of a squad to compete in Europe. I just don't. Because regardless, if you have a couple injuries, then it could all start falling apart.
It's what happened last year too.
And exactly that's what happened last year. They had a few injuries and they weren't the same. And that would be my concern because they don't have the depth to me to win the Europa League. Maybe they do. If they do, then they probably aren't going to do very well in one of the. I mean, they already are. They're already out of the Carabao Cup.
No, they're still in.
Oh, they are still in it.
Yeah.
So they have that. They have the FA
They
Cup.
got 4 competitions right now.
They didn't have that last year. They did not. And again, they didn't have that last year. So that's going to be a big adjustment for a squad that doesn't have a lot of depth. That's a lot of tread on those tires on their legs. So I'm very interested to see how Ange Postecoglou figures that out because I don't know what he's going to do.
Yep. So I was just taking a look at this because Tottenham, since the Champions League final loss to Liverpool, have not made it past the round of 16 in any European competition. So in 2019-20, round of 16 loss to Leipzig. 2020-21, they lost to Dinamo Zagreb in the round of 16 of the Europa League.
Yep.
Following year, they didn't get out of the group in the Europa League. That's really concerning. 22-23, round of 16 loss to Milan in the Champions League. And then last year, of course, not in Europe. So, yeah, this is a big test for a team that, they're looking to get over this hump in terms of winning a trophy. I think their path to winning one is probably easier in a League Cup. One of which is Carabao or FA Cup. They can decide which one. But I think winning a trophy and getting a deep run in Europe is just as important for Tottenham as it is to Manchester United. Especially with Ange in year 2, after how things started last year and how well it progressed at points. He needs to also take a step forward almost as much as Eric Ten Hag. Maybe not the same level of pressure, but I think their squad feels that this is the time for them to finally win a trophy. But we'll see which one of those teams potentially could win it, if either one. But let's finish off with Jacob's team. Obviously, you talked about before. Conference League expectations pretty much to win it or it's a disappointment. I'm sure you're not the only Chelsea fan who feels that way. Where are you at with this team right now?
Well, I'm more concerned about what's going on with the owners. That's my concern. I hear all these reports that Bowley and Todd Bowley and Big Data Bowley hate each other. They want to buy the club out from the other. They want to buy. They just want to buy the club fully. The clearly capital is. I don't know what they're doing. There's too many voices in the room. Too many people. I don't want 50 people making decisions. That's too many. No wonder why things don't necessarily go all swiftly, for lack of a better word. This is just, it's a mess. I don't know really what the outcome I expect to happen out of it is. It's another distraction that the club doesn't need, which is annoying. My expectations for Chelsea are I have a feeling that they're gonna do what that they will. They're gonna have games where they're gonna really impress me, and I'm gonna say, "Wow, that was some brand of soccer." And then they're gonna have games where they don't beat crappy teams or teams that they should beat. I think it's just gonna be a season of a lot of up. It's gonna be a roller coaster, mixed bag season. I don't have super high hopes. I still think that they can make the Champions League. I still think that they can make the Europa League. I think it's very, very doable. But I hope that they prioritize winning the Conference League because it's winnable. A trophy's a trophy.
Yep.
They all matter. They all mean something. And it's good to have them, especially as a new manager. You want to be able to say that you won a trophy. I think that they should be prioritizing the Conference League and one of the two, either the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. And let the league let it come the way it does. They all matter, but my point is that they need to win the Conference League. Anything else is unacceptable. I don't care how many injuries they have. They have 50 players. There should be no excuses about injuries. And I don't know where the hell they're going to play Jadon Sancho or when or how.
We'll find out this weekend.
We will. Let's see if he even makes the bench.
You can't bring him in and not play him.
Well, it's not a guarantee.
It's definitely not a guarantee.
They brought in playing guys that they never played. Well, I don't know about plenty, but they brought in guys that they have no and they aren't going to play, at least not at this level. So, I don't know. Beat Bournemouth. Let's start with that. Beat Bournemouth. You couldn't beat Crystal Palace, which is ridiculous. Go beat Bournemouth. I don't care if it's on the road. I don't care. Go beat Bournemouth.
The Conference League is fascinating to me because last year kind of set the blueprint of how these teams maybe we're not as familiar with can be an issue. Because again, all of us probably thought Aston Villa was going to run through this thing last year and walk all the way to a final and figure it out. And then they played Olympiacos. Team from Greece, crazy environment, fans are all over you. And all of a sudden, Aston Villa drops out of the Conference League before a final. So Chelsea's going to get through. They're going to probably finish as the number one team, in my opinion, in the league phase. But again, there's a lot of these, smaller teams in Europe that could be a problem. And again, it's by the point of the knockout stages, you would hope that Maresca can find his best 11. And, he's going to rotate, obviously. I mean, you're not going to play the same 11 in every single game of the Conference League knockout stages. But you would hope by, January, February, he figures it out. And, I mean, the biggest team besides Chelsea in this format is Fiorentina, who lost their manager, lost their best player. Not, really the same team they were a year ago. I mean, there's a lot of these, teams that maybe less fans are familiar with. Real Betis and, have Genk, Heidenheim. Chelsea should win the Conference League. I mean, and anything less, as Jacob mentioned, would be a failure. For a team of their stature with the squad they have. Ricardo, you tend to agree with that in terms of their Conference League run?
Yes. 1,000,000% yes. They should win. I mean, they're the most talented team and deepest in like the wrong way, I guess. So, yeah, they should with all the players they have, like Jacob said. Like, it just figure out a team that'll. I mean, damn! Literally, you have so many players.
Here's the problem, but that's the problem. It makes
could
the job
be an issue.
harder.
No, it definitely is an issue. But
I mean,
I feel bad for Maresca in that aspect.
Oh, I do too.
He basically has to use two completely different teams and he almost has for the Conference League and the Premier League.
I mean, that's just
it's pretty remarkable that Poch got them where they did last year. Given, I mean, it's same problem.
Yeah, which is why he should still be managing the friggin' team.
Yeah, should.
But I don't want to get into that. I've talked about that ad nauseum. So.
But Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League all start next week. So we'll have plenty of European football to talk about in addition to everything else. So, if you thought this sport was going to go away for a brief period in an international break, too bad. Not happening. All right. Shorter episode. But before we do go, we have best bets, which I believe, again, I'll confirm this later, but I'm pretty sure Ricardo's the only one that's got a winning bet so far. So,
shocker.
Let's start with him.
Yeah. What did I do? Oh, yeah. I have Newcastle plus 110 because, I mean, Wolves, seriously, like, they're what the hell's wrong with them? For a team that I thought was going to do better, they've just gone and done the opposite. So, I mean, they haven't won yet. So, Newcastle, I'll give them the win there. Then Brighton, minus 280, 25 to win 46-25. So, I don't know. I like my chances this week.
All right, so we'll go from that to Andrew's bet. It's Real Madrid and Brighton. So we have two Brightons involved here. Real Madrid's playing Real Sociedad away from home. Before I continue, Ricardo, how are we feeling about this match coming off an international break?
I mean, the fact that we're getting Jude back, well, they're fit. They're training again. Militao's training again. I'm forgetting someone else. Yeah, but those two, that's huge already. But it's still, I think it's winnable. And we're at home, I believe, right? So
You're away from home.
Oh, away from. I mean, you should still beat. I don't care. Like, what am I saying? You should still beat them.
Pressure's on too, especially with the drop points already. You don't want to drop any further behind Barca. Who
I
also?
don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, but I won't put that energy here.
I don't.
All right, I'll go with mine next. I'm going with Tottenham to win. Maybe surprisingly, given what the odds are, I think it's plus 195 is a straight bet. Juventus money line, who are playing, I believe it's Empoli, and Monaco are also playing. I think one of the newly promoted sides in Liga. Solid value, as you can see, for those watching on YouTube, plus $7.97. Only putting $10 down. But yeah, three of the bigger teams in each of their divisions. We'll see if that works out. Probably won't. But let's finish off with Jacob, who's taking the opposite side of me in one of those games.
Yep. Folks, when we do this segment, I like to play it safe. Even if my bets don't hit, I say don't spend a lot of money. Play it safe. Because if you do, you're not going to be that upset when it doesn't hit. But you know what? I said screw it. Go big or go home. Sometimes in life, you got to go for it on fourth down. You got to take chances. You got to take risks. And this is what I'm doing. I'm going with the big three. Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. Man City at Brentford. How many Haaland goals in the first half? 4?
5?
6? They can beat Brentford. They will. Liverpool, who do they got again?
Nottingham Forest.
I mean, come on. I mean, I say another 2-0 game that Liverpool will probably win, where Darwin Núñez doesn't play. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
I just want drama. I want drama at Liverpool. It's all too perfect. I want some more drama.
It's a long season.
And then Arsenal, and we know, they have injuries. This guy's hurt. That guy's hurt. They're on the road. Ooh, but who are they playing? Tottenham freaking Hotspur. I don't care. And I'm sorry that I have to go against Christian in this regard. Give me Arsenal. I hate both of these teams with a burning passion. I never want them to win ever, ever, ever. My goal is that they both win 0 trophies combined. That's what I hope. But this weekend, I am going to pick Arsenal to win on the road. Give me the better manager. Give me the team that has the better goalkeeper, right winger, back line. Just give me the better team winning this weekend. And to win, folks, we want to climb up the ladder of the rankings. We want to win some money for once. And if this doesn't hit, don't blame me, because it's your choice to do this. Pick this bet or not. I'm not even gambling. I'm just doing this for fun. So have at it.
Jacob going bold. Maybe that means something good this weekend. Yeah. So next week, as I mentioned before, we have all the European leagues or the European competitions beginning. So I'm sure we'll have some reactions to our teams playing and how they perform. But for now, let us know if there's anything you'd like us to discuss in the future. Follow us on Twitter. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.